my inkies, welcome back to another video. I am just getting set up. I've just realized I haven't put my jewelry on, but that's okay. Today we're going to talk about journal fodder because I mentioned it in another video, and I would like to do something creative today, but not with a lot of talking. This will probably be a major sped up video for you guys, since the last video I talked for so long that my throat is still sore. So I'm a bit of a wuss bag today. It is super windy and I'm just getting myself all orientated. I was hoping I could find a piece of spotty tissue paper I had, but I can't find it. Oh no, here it is. So let's talk about journal fodder, shall we? Now, you may have a total idea about what journal fodder is and be like, this is not my kind of video. And I totally get that. But sometimes it's interesting to hear another person's point of view from it. And I love journal fodder. I also love creating my own journal fodder. You don't hear the term a lot in our journal community. You hear it a lot in the art journal community, because a lot of the time we hear ephemera, and that is what we normally use. I think they go hand in hand. I kind of just think each group kind of uses the same, like different words for the same type of thing. But journal fodder is one of my favorite things to make, my favorite things to collect. Ephemera, journal fodder, same to me. It means the same thing to me. And I think DIYing your journal fodder can be super fun. This was some tissue paper that I got from a birthday present, I want to say. I have a feeling, I'm not quite sure, but it's in my collection. It's hot pink with spots and little dogs on it. But you have seen me use tissue paper in my journals pretty much everywhere. I'm obsessed with it. Sian and I went a bit nuts when she came over to my place, and we made a stack of tissue paper. And then you've seen the tissue paper that's been scanned, sorry, I've got the hiccups, that's been scanned and put into your journal, your collage sheets. So what I have done, or what I do, is I save tissue paper from all different types of places. I actually got some clothes in the mail yesterday because a lot of my clothes have stopped fitting me yet again. So I have sized down and bought a couple of things on sale. And one of the things was wrapped in tissue paper. I don't know why. It wasn't like super fancy, but it was, so I was grateful. So I've got two pieces of tissue paper to play with. You can also go to the dollar store and, you know, the reject shop in Australia, and they have tissue paper in the wrapping section for like $2 for a billion sheets. So it's not expensive to buy, but I try and find it in different ways. Journal fodder does not have to be expensive. You can repurpose almost anything and turn it into journal fodder. This was in the same parcel of clothes. The top was wrapped around it, and I'm going to cut this down and turn these into journal fodder cards, like do some artwork over them. I love creating artworks on cards. The poetry and motion video you guys saw, I am obsessed with creating things on smaller things to put into my journal. It takes a lot of stress away. You're not worried about ruining your journal page. You can scan it, recreate it, use it all over again. So I'm going to be working on some journal fodder today in this video, and the stuff that I create today will be scanned for your collage sheets. So I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone. The 4x4 tip-ins that I made you guys are going to make a resurgence because everyone quite loved them. So this is a piece of tissue paper, and I literally got some of my black ink, acrylic ink, or my fountain pen ink, I can't quite remember, and just sat there with a brush and created this, and I will tear it up and use it in my journal for backgrounds, to layering. I'm actually thinking of doing little collaged clusters for your dates this month, so I'm going to be working on 31 of those. I go big or go home, right? Just something creative that I thought would be a bit different this month for you guys. So I'm going to be working on little collage clusters and then leaving a space for you to put your own dates in for your journals. And that's something that I have been like, not doing the clusters, but on my morning pages, I have really enjoyed finding ways to make my date a little bit different. So I thought that it was this one that sparked it in me going, well, why can't I create a whole month's worth of these? And then I have I'm making them for my own personal gain, really. So that was something. And I've also got Sian lettering for us again this month, so I'll be incorporating her lettering into that sort of thing, and also days, months of the year. So I love doing things like these, creating things from nothing. I've talked so much about this, you're probably sick of me talking about it, but stuff like this is journal fodder. And we have places that we collect, the ephemera that we keep, all these bits and pieces. So like this is what I would call a piece of journal fodder, something that you've created or you've made that you can use in your journal. And normally it is targeted more towards art journaling with the layering and the paint and stuff like that. But I see my journal, and I've always said this, even with my sewing book, my journal is where art and life collide. I don't think I could ever become a straight art journaler anymore, because this way of doing things with my art and my photographs and my life and my writing is how I do it. It's what I do now. It is how I love to journal. Some people may say the writing is the most important, and I do fully agree with that as well. But me as a person, my art and my writing are on the same playing field. They are as important to me as each other. So they are equal players in my life. So that's why my journals are so art and life collide. That's the only way I can explain it. So journal fodder to me is a huge part of my journal now, because I don't really art journal anymore. I do it like this. And so I'm combining art journal techniques, but in a journal where I have my life as well. So like stamping, collaging, painting, layering, all that sort of stuff is stuff that you could do in an art journal, and normally there's no writing, it's just spreads. But I like to take those techniques and put them into my own journal. So this is a jelly print. This is journal fodder for your journals. We did a whole video on jelly printing. I'm actually going to go get my hexagon punch out. I'm going to show you a few different things that you can do to create your own journal fodder. I'm not just going to do the same thing. I'm going to give you ideas in bits and pieces, in snapshots. So I'm not going to just do one project. I'm going to work on bits and pieces to give you guys, oh, my desk is moving, to give you guys some ideas for when it comes to your own journal fodder. This is a great creative Kickstarter. If you don't know what to do, if you don't want to journal but you want to do something creative, work on your own journal fodder that you can use when you're not feeling so creative. Stuff like, you know, these things that I created for collage sheets turned into journal fodder for my own journal. Actually, no, I didn't even create these for collage sheets, did I? Yes, I must have. But the swatches themselves were for an online class that I did with Jane, Alice class, when I was just looking at all my primary colors. These sorts of things that you have lying around can be certainly repurposed to be adding texture and layers to your journals. Now, if you don't feel comfortable doing this sort of thing in your journal, then by all means use it in your art journal. Don't feel like what I say is the right way to do things. Everyone journals their own way, and no way is better than the other, no way is wrong. You could be journaling in a exercise book and it could be the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. So I don't think that if you don't want to do this sort of thing in your journal, if you don't feel comfortable, then don't do it in your art journal. But I feel comfortable in this method, in this mode, where my art and my journaling are together, where my illustrations are, where paintings are. You know, things like this would normally be found in an art journal, and I'm like, why the hell can't I put it in my normal journal? I like to push the boundaries a little bit, especially when it comes to my journal. Plus, I'm kind of lazy, and I've said this a lot. I want to have time to do both art journaling and journal journaling, but the nature of my job means that I don't have time to do both, or if I do both, they both get only half of me, if you know what I mean. I can't put my full effort into something, and then that makes me go, I don't know. But that's kind of why my sewing book is kind of stalled at the moment, because I've put so much energy into this book for the last 6 months. I feel almost like I'm cheating on my journal if I decide that I want to play in my sewing book, but I have to sort of shut that thought process down because my sewing book has got such a lot of attention and that sort of thing that I need to sort of work some of my ideas that I show you guys in here into my sewing book as well. I just need more of me. I need someone to create a cloning machine. There, I've said it. I need a clone. I need a clone. So first, I am going to play with some tissue paper, and this will be ripped up and put into my journal. I love the way tissue paper looks when you have the white tissue paper like this. When you glue it down, it's almost as if the tissue paper just melts into the paper and all you see is the pattern work. I don't know what it is about it, but it makes me stupidly happy. It scans beautifully, so I'm gonna start making some tissue paper fodder to start working on the date clusters for you guys. But I'm gonna speed the rest of this video up and do a voiceover, and I'm gonna show you different ways to do these little quick, mindless but creatively satisfying journal fodder bits and bobs that you can then use into your journal. Or if you're just happy to watch me create and know that you're going to get most of these in collage sheets, then grab your journal, put on get a cold drink, hot drink, and just enjoy, and make sure you have your journal open so that you can play as well. And if you're in the bath joining me, please relax. I am here to entertain you while you get a few stolen moments in the bath. Anna, I'm talking to you, girl. I'm talking to you. I'm quickly gonna jump in before I say anything. I'm actually gonna put down my craft mat. If you're working with tissue paper, stuff's gonna go through it. It just is. Just a little public service announcement, because sometimes we get stuck into things and don't think about our tables. If you've got a messy table and you're okay with getting paint on it, that's all good. But I have a white table, and I pride myself on keeping my table as white as possible, which is very hard when I'm flicking watercolor and ink everywhere. But I am gonna go grab my craft mat so that I can stretch this out, and I'm gonna put some Cyclamen pink ink on half this sheet and some acrylic paint and the Pentel brush pen, so I can show you the different things that anything will work on tissue paper. What am I saying? But some of the things that I like to use on tissue paper. So this is definitely not rocket science at all. I am using some brush markers. These happen to be the Jane Davenport ones, but as you can see in frame, I also have the Pentel ones. Any sort of brush marker will do. Even your Tombos and your Zigs will create the same sort of effect. It is a great way just to zone out and do some mindless graphic prints, because once they're all ripped up, you don't really, it doesn't even need to be perfect. You're just getting pattern work down, and a great way to do this is with those brush pens. I love how they look. I love how vibrant they look, and you can just do a whole heap of different patterns on the same piece of tissue paper. I love just zoning out in front of the TV with this on my lap, normally with a book or something underneath me, so that or a spare piece of paper, so that I don't get any on my lap, of course, because tissue paper is super thin. And I try not to stay in one place at the same time so it doesn't bleed. You can see that I'm working quite fast, even sped up, I'm working quite fast. And I'm not really thinking too much about it. I'm just creating patterns, because I know at the end of it, it is just going to get ripped up, and pieces of that pattern is what's going to create the really cool backgrounds and unique looks in our journal fodder. So that was just quickly with the mermaid marker there. And I make sure that I clean up my space because there's excess ink that's underneath. And then I've grabbed one of those acrylic inks, and this is the muted gray, and I'm literally just using that dauber. Now I know these are going to spread. I kind of wanted it that way. It is a way for you to sort of break out of that perfectionitis sort of feeling. This is a very random, haphazard way of creating journal fodder, but I love the randomness of it. This is a really good thing to do if you are stuck on trying to be perfect. You can't control how it reacts on the tissue paper. Sometimes you can, but with the tissue paper, it is so thin that 90% of your things are going to bleed through and you can't do anything about it. So get messy with me, get your tissue paper out, and just really have fun with it. I know I could do this for ages. As you can see, I'm grabbing my Cyclamen Pink. That is my favorite ink in the world, and I'm just splattering that down onto the excess because there's so much ink that's left over. I didn't want to waste it, so I'm just throwing some tissue paper on it and just mottling up some bits and pieces. Again, totally random, but will get ripped up and will look so cool when it's being used in such a random way. And it is literally so easy and so gratifying. One of those things, you know how lazy I am, you know I like instant gratification, and I'm trying to use all my product up by creating tip-ins with the excess ink, all that sort of thing. So this is me using a Tombow marker, just a yellow one, and I'm just creating a patterned crosshatch. Now these papers and tissue papers were the foundation of those calendar things that I did in your collage sheets. I actually made these before I made the collage sheet elements, and you've seen them already. So just a few simple patterns on a few pieces of tissue paper can create such an awesome building block when using them all together. And the, you know, contrast colors, the contrast patterns, all the graphic prints really work well together. So you can actually watercolor onto these bits of tissue paper, but this is why I'm quickly popping in. You need to be very careful with how much water you use with these, because obviously tissue paper itself is stupidly thin and you don't want to make a huge tear in them if it gets too wet. Not just that, if you are really careful, you can make sure if you keep, as you can see, if it's too wet, you're going to get what we had with the gray ink. Now, I knew that was going to happen with the gray ink, and obviously my paintbrush is too wet this time around as well. But at the same time, if you're really careful, you can get some really beautiful mixing. And then when you come to use this in your journal, you're going to have to use a glue stick or a really dry glue, because your watercolor is going to move. With my Cyclamen Pink pieces, I get a little bit of ink movement, and I kind of like how the fuzziness of it, so you can see under there that you're going to have swatchy bits, and that's okay because it's all going to be layered and it's all textural, and it will all give a certain look to it. Now I'm using my Mission Gold Magello watercolors because they are what's on my desk at the moment. So you can pull these over and like mix your watercolors on the tissue paper, and I reckon that would give some really cool effects that I would enjoy seeing happen. So you just gotta experiment and play. That's how you learn about things. That's how you learn about your medias. And I am always playing with color on different surfaces, especially tissue paper. Now I have not ever used a really wet media on my tissue paper, but I thought I would give it a go because what's it gonna do? Let's see. Let's put some of that blue in there and let it, don't get it too wet, otherwise you're going to make a huge fat mess. But if you have a light hand and you don't disturb the tissue paper as it's drying, then it will stay together for you. But you've just got to be super delicate with it. And then I'm going to put that onto the ends. Also, if you want to do something completely random, You can, I should put that that way. So if you want to get a random mottled effect, you can paint your craft mat or whatever surface that you have that will bead up like this. Clean off that pink out of my paintbrush. You can do this with sprays as well, but the sprays you might get too much. It might be too wet, so you can then layer that down. You're gonna get messy hands. I'm sorry, but that's just how it's gonna be. See, you're gonna get messy hands. And you can get a really beautiful mottled, and you just be very, very light with it. If you're light with it, you'll get these really beautiful mottled backgrounds that will melt into your page. And this stuff is like so random that you couldn't create it, or you could, but it would take a lot of effort and a lot of time. But things like this, when this is dried, would make a beautiful background. As you can see, it is very wet. So I'm being super careful. I've got my heater on at the moment, so it'll help with that to dry. But I'm gonna show you all the different like journaly bits and pieces, and then I'm gonna start putting them into cards for you so you can see what some of these things can turn into with just a little bit of minimum effort, basically. You know I'm all about minimum effort when it comes to journaling and stuff like that. Have you ever considered painting on tracing paper and then adding this as an overlay to your journaling and having a blast? As you can see, this is watercolor that I'm putting onto it, but it almost looks like it is opaque in its properties. Be careful, you might want to tape it down. I did heat gun my last lot as well, so it will crinkle up a little bit, but as you can see, it holds its shape relatively well. I'm pretty sure I've also embossed on this, and you can see that I've done some drawing on there, so you can see that the Tiki Graphic pen doesn't bleed too much. So having these as cool overlays is a great way to hide journaling if you want to put some personal journaling down and then have an overlay of color and stuff like this, and you can just sort of add that to your journal spread. Great journal fodder. I love things that are slightly transparent, so layering something like this over a journal spread in your journal can be a really fun and effective way to play with texture, to play with color, and I just love the way it sounds. It's got a lot more robustness than the tissue paper, and it doesn't bleed through because tracing paper almost has that sort of film on it. So I've kind of laid on that watercolor quite a lot, and it hasn't come through the thing, so there's like a barrier that's stopping it from leaking. You can have a blast. You could probably jelly print onto the tissue paper. I'm going to add some of our stamps to these sorts of things to add more dimension. I'm also going to do some embossing on some of them. So I will do that now for you guys. But tracing paper is relatively cheap. I have quite a few pads of it, and I don't use it for tracing hardly ever, but I do love using it as layering things, tip-in ideas, texture ideas, and great collage fodder. I love that you can layer several pieces on top of each other with the transparency and stuff. I love that you can see bits and pieces. I just love layering things on top of each other, and that's the whole premise of journaling fodder, is bringing a whole heap of bits and pieces together to create one thing or to create something in your journal. So I'm going to wait for this to dry. I'm actually going to go blast it with my heat gun, and then I'm going to do a little bit of stamping with our DIY foam stamps. So as you can see, bits and pieces that I've given you throughout the year that I have shown you, taught you, inspired you with, all those little tidbits can be applied in so many different ways in your journal, like the foam stamp stamps can be used in this whole journal fodder stuff, in tip-ins, in your art journals, you know, the funky ways to use embossing powders, all that sort of stuff. All these little things that I've been showing you along the whole course of the year can all come together to create some really cool things for your journal, and that way they are a whole lot more unique and a whole lot more personal to you, with these creative little tidbits that you can put your life down into. So I like to tie in things with my lessons to you guys. I like to show you old things that I've done that you can rebuild and reinvigorate. So remember those foam stamps. If you're a new inky, the foam stamps are a video on Patreon, so you need to go looking for them. But we made foam stamps ages ago with kids foam, and a great way to resurge and reinvigorate those stamps is get them out and put them onto tracing paper. It is a real pain in the butt, and I advise that you tape your tissue paper down, because once you add wet media to it, it does go a bit rogue, and you can see that there. But I love the way the colors all work, and the fountain pen ink really shone on this. I did dry it with a heat gun, it was fine, and it took our stamps really well. And I love the way that the tracing paper looked, and I want to do more of these. I love that they're slightly transparent. I love that they crinkle really nicely. It was a really fun way. If you haven't played with tracing paper for journal fodder, I really think you should have a go with it, because that was probably it was a lot of fun. Probably one of my favorites of the day when I was creating these. Okay, it is I think about a couple of weeks since I last started that video. The Chasing Obsessions video completely took over my brain, and I wanted to make that video before, and then we had collage sheet video. So the journal fodder video got put on the back burner. So I am here today, and I'm gonna have a quick chat about things. I think I'm gonna make this a two-part video. As you guys know, I'm not feeling the best. I am coming down with Elijah's cold. My head feels like a pile of bricks. Also, the next door neighbors are still doing renovation, so I can't really do much about all the banging. But I want to talk to you about more sort of journal fodder ideas. And in the next video, I'll put some of the fodder into practice and show you, you know, creative ways to play around with it, and just things that you may not have thought of, or you have, but it's just never occurred to you to do it in this way. So one of the things that sparked this sort of idea was the IKEA catalog came in the mail. Now this is a free catalog. I'm pretty sure you can pick it up at your IKEA. And I was looking through the pages, and there are so many bright colors and pattern work that are within this catalog, and this is a free catalog. So you could generally go through and pick out, like there's a whole heap of different colors. You can pick out sections of pages to use to build other things. All this blues and stuff like that. Like I have a hexagon punch, and there is like a thing that I did in my last journal that I want to repeat and show you guys. So using patterned works, I used photographs in my last way of doing it, but you could definitely create a really cool background using hexagons and pages and just sections out of a catalog. You could create a whole color palette just from using the pages from this catalog. So you're gonna get some of that orange in there. And this catalog is just filled to the brim with texture and pattern and color, and it's free. And I like this pink is all throughout this catalog, and it makes me super happy to see pink being featured so much, because it's an on-trend color. If I had my way, it would be on trend for life. and you can have a blast just tearing sections of this out and building clothing for your creatures. You could make pictures based on ripped pieces of paper. It is so many things that you can do with journal fodder. And like, this was a free catalog that came in the mail literally yesterday, and I was flicking through it going, oh, there's some really nice stuff that I'd love to rip out and journal and use as journal fodder. So when I was saying it at the beginning of this video, like, journal fodder does not have to cost you any money, and like, this literally came in my mailbox unannounced yesterday, and I've got pages and pages of texture and color and images that I can use in my journal and in my work, and just for nothing, basically. Whatever you could use some of the pictures as drawing reference if you want to draw furniture. You could definitely, I'm going to pull apart all the big color blocks and patterns and things and build like color palettes and things in my journal and backgrounds and really cool stuff like that. So look at your catalogs. They are free and they are usually filled with patterns and things, because that is currently what is trending in the homewares world. So jump on these sorts of things to use as cheap journal fodder that you can use in your journals. I will, in the next part of the video, show you the whole building of the whole hexagon pattern, but at the same token, you can use the background sheets for your journal fodder. This is one of your collage sheets that you got from me. And you can definitely build backgrounds, or you could, these are, what are they called they're from Daiso. They're just called index cards. They are cheap, $2.80. You get a stack of them. They are flimsy little cards, but once you build things on them, you can pull these onto your jelly plates and have little artworks, cut them down, work with them. Don't make huge things, just cut them down and make them quirky. Like, I'm sorry, my brain is so tired at the moment. You can build on top, on top of jelly prints. You can add them to photographs. I really need them to stop hammering because I want to hammer them at the moment. So get your, if I know a lot of us had jelly plates. If you didn't buy one because of my jelly plate video before, you probably would have, or you've had one for a long time. Jelly prints are a great way to create journal fodder. This is on that cheap calligraphy paper that you get from Daiso. Again, $2.80 and some acrylic paint, and I went to town making all different things, cutting out shapes and flower shapes. I love that you can get all different looks and textures with jelly prints, and then you can cut around them and create journal fodder for your journals. In the next video for you, in the part 2 of this, I'm going to put all these bits and pieces into my journal and show you how they are created. Now, yesterday, before I got sick, I made a Jane Davenport video focusing on her journal tapes. And these are the journal tapes. They came in a pack of 7, so you had some that had the prints on them, and then you got blank ones. And I worked with the blank ones for the video. And I'm gonna do some cutaway shots of the footage as I created them, so you've got extra creating footage. And literally, I went to town and just made a whole heap of DIY washi tape to use in my journals. So there's all types that you can use, but if you do not want to go out and purchase some of the tape, which I totally get it, I'm trying to talk to you about saving money and all that sort of thing, and doing this sort of stuff. Obviously I got this as my design team bundle, but you can also use labels. So this is a laser copier labels. They are full blown sheets of label paper, and you can literally create a whole heap of backgrounds on them, and then you can cut them down and create any type of size tape that you would like, and you have a great... I'm actually going to do a whole video on using these as collage elements, and I had a great idea, but I want to do it now, but my head feels so heavy that even if I tried to do it for you now, it would be a video of shit touch, and you guys are worth more than that, so I don't want that to be something that I give to you when I'm not well, because when I'm not well and I try and force things, everything under the sun goes wrong, and you guys deserve much better than that. So I'm not going to push that, but I think these can become super addictive. I actually bought them to use my silhouette to make DIY Nook Dweller stickers. My silhouette and I hate each other. I can never get them to cut. So I have a whole box of this paper that is sticky, like so. But I think if you threw this on your jelly plate, if you sprayed on it, if you use your stencils on it, you can create some awesome, awesome collage fodder and journal fodder, because once you've printed all over it and done all this stuff, it becomes... I have so many ideas. I got this idea in the shower when most of my ideas come to me when I'm staring off into space. I think these would be awesome when we create our totem creatures, the totem animals that I did for your collage sheets last month, and I'm probably going to make some more because I loved making them, but this is what I'm going to make them on next time. So think about label paper. I don't know how much it is where you guys are. There are some really cheapo versions on eBay, which I think would do just fine, because you're going to throw paint on them, your sprays, everything, and then you can just cut them up and cut them down to shapes and things. This is going to be a really fun video to film. So think about outside the box. Obviously the journal tapes are fun, and I had a blast creating them, and I will work with these as well in that part 2 of the video of me putting stuff together in our journals. Don't forget cheap paper packs. I know that you guys have probably got more scrapbook paper than you know what to do with. I actually don't own that much scrapbook paper, but I still have enough where I could use this sort of stuff and tear it up and use it in the backgrounds and things. This is still stuff that you can... I tend to go for papers that have got graphic prints on them. I actually bought it mainly for the stripes and the crosses. Yeah, the stripes paper. It's so generic. This sort of thing. These make great journal fodder. They make great things for tip-in cards, backing on your photographs. They are just fantastic ideas for journal fodder. So there's just so many things with the tissue paper, and you know, creating little artworks like you saw in the supplies video, creating things with, where are they? With the stuff that I created in this video, the yellow tissue paper, all the little bits and pieces there, and the number cards, the cluster things that I actually mentioned, you obviously got in your journal, collage sheets for this month. Let me go grab them so I can show you. Okay, so this is actually one of the pieces that I did for you guys on camera, and you saw that splatter piece that I used. I actually used the entire piece of that within these little clusters. I would have to look for it, but the stuff that I created these cards from were all the things that I used in that video that I created on camera for you guys. I used some washi tape as extra stuff, but the rest of it was all tissue paper and collage sheets and ripped up bits and pieces. You can see that yellow tissue paper behind there that I made. Here's some of that really cool, what do you call it? The vellum and all the tracing paper right here. These literally took me like a day to make. And then I sat down and made these cluster collages using the stuff that I'd done on camera for you guys. And I probably should have filmed the process of me making these, but seriously, it is just me playing with color and drawing. There's more of that tracing paper. There's the red tissue paper. It is all through it. And then I've just gone in with a pen and added accents that overlap over certain pieces, so it all looks more cohesive that way than just bits and pieces of paper. And that is the trick, is when you've got lots of different patterns like fighting for attention, I'll go in with a black marker and I'll start drawing dots, but I'll draw those dots over the span of 3 elements to make it look more cohesive and make it look like one item. There's some of that splatter paper up there. I need to make more of that. I was so obsessed with it. I used it all, and it was such a random little piece of ephemera that I made, or journal fodder, but it totally worked. The tracing paper looks so beautiful over everything, so I'm gonna make some more tracing paper stuff. It just has a certain look to it that I just adored, and I want to put more tracing paper elements into my journal as well. So that was something that I discovered. I knew about it because I've used it before, but I hadn't used it in a while, and that's what these kind of videos do. They stir up things that you may already know about, but go, oh yeah, I could do that in my journal. Or you could rediscover an old love, you could discover a new love. That's the whole point of these type of journal videos for you guys. They may spark, they're there to spark things within you so that you can take these ideas and just run with them in your journals. I mean, telling you to do things exactly like me means that we're all gonna look exactly the same, and we're not. We're individual people, so giving you it in this format and just getting you guys to think for yourselves while also giving you like a yellow brick road to follow, but giving you all different sort of, giving the same directions, but I don't even see, my head is like blah, blah, blah. Like giving you a map with the same destination, but each of you have got different directions to get there. So you'll all take different routes, but you'll all reach the same destination and it'll all look different. Oh my God, I'm so tired. But giving it to you in this format, instead of saying, this is how you do it, this is how you do this, this is how you do that. Giving you ideas and giving you different ways of doing things means that you can take those ideas and you may take bits and pieces from each thing and then create something on your own. And then you feel like you've achieved something, but with my help, but without dead set copying my stuff. That's how I like to teach. I like to give you instructions, but give you creative freedom at the same time. So I want you guys to get inspired and then run off and do it your way and create something completely different to what I did, with the same sort of feel though, if you get what I mean. I feel like I'm babbling and I'm not making any sense, but that's okay. So journal fodder is one of my favorite things. It is still one of my favorite things. I wish I could create something for you today, but my head is pounding and I feel like I've got a brick hanging off my eyelids. So I'm not going to attempt to do any creating, but this video was already quite long from creating all the tissue paper things. But I am going to do a part 2 of this journal fodder thing because I'm very passionate about journal fodder, and there is so much more that I want to show you, but I know that I don't feel well enough to get that out and conveyed in the way that I expect from myself. I have very high expectations when it comes to giving you guys videos. If I can't do it the way I want to do something, then I will veto the whole idea until I can get it the way I want. So I want to show you fun ways to use this sticker paper that might spark something in you. I want to show you more on the washi tape side of things. I want to show you more things with the hexagons and all that sort of thing. Fun ways to use your photographs. So there's a lot of aspects that I want to cover, but I can't mentally or physically do it right now. So I am going to leave you with this part of the video, and hopefully just me talking about it and showing you the creation bits at the start will give you enough to sort of get you hitting the ground running. And then in the next part of the journal photo video, hopefully I can get rid of this cold that's coming at me like a freight train. I will try and get Saturday's video, which is will be part 2 of all this, up and ready for you guys. I think I just need to spend the day on the couch with some tea and some cold and flu meds because my brain and my head is so sore. So yeah, journal fodder. What do you think about it? Are you pro? Are you con? Are you just a bit in between? You've never really thought of journal fodder as an actual integral part of our journaling? Do you think journal fodder and ephemera are the same things? Do you think they're different? Discussions. I want discussions. I love when we have discussions down in the bottom of the comments or in the Facebook group. I will put a thread up in the Facebook group, but also don't feel like you can't comment down below, because I don't think everyone in the top level is in the Facebook group yet, so we can have discussions in both places. I'm totally okay with that. But tell me your thoughts on journal fodder. Have I stirred up something in you that you want to go and try? All that sort of thing. Now, before my head explodes, I'm going to leave you with this. I have a little illustration to color in. I've been just playing around in my journal. I also have a couple more things to arrive, and then I'll do part 2 of the haul, and you will see that beautiful brown item in full glory that you saw at the end of the supplies video that I have been hounded by people to show, but I will not show it until I have everything ready and until I've worked out the best way to show it off. So that is it from me. I'm going to make a cup of tea and I'm going to lay down. So I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday or whenever you watch this video. And I apologize profusely that I didn't get to create in the second half of this video, or for the horrible construction. It sounds like they've taken a break. I really hope they finish up soon, because it's been like 2 weeks of constant hammering and banging, and I'm totally over it, totally over it. So my loves, I'm gonna leave you with that, and I hope you enjoyed the journal flip video that went up today. Even though you guys have seen a lot of, well, you've seen all of it, so, but it's just a little bit of company for you, you guys. So I'll talk to you guys soon, and let's chat about journal fodder. Bye. So give yourself 30 minutes of art time, grab your supplies, have them around you. As you can see, I have supplies all around me, and I have this little tiny space to work in, but I got through it with my time, because the tiny book makes it so much easier because there's not that much space. And just give yourselves bursts of